This podcast is proudly brought to you by Lerato Agency and Lanala Beauty.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting installment of the Pat on Brands podcast with Pat and
Mpumi.
What it do, Mpumi?
What it do? What's up? How you, Pedzo?
Very well. Happy to be here today. We've got a very special guest.
And today is very festive.
Very festive.
This room is full.
It's full of people.
Busy. Others who don't know support structures.
Yeah.
Then it's superstars also who I guess.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
When I look right, I see a lady in a suit. When I look left, I see a lady in a suit. When I look left again, I see a guy in a suit. Like, I'm the only one who's not wearing a suit today.
Yeah, you're not suited out.
Yeah, but look, I'm wearing my brand with pride.
Indeed. How are you doing though?
Cannot complain at all.
2 weeks or 3 weeks till the year end. How are you feeling?
Look, I'm exhausted. Yeah. But also I'm excited about life.
Okay.
Very positive, very optimistic.
Yeah.
And for the first time, actually, can I tell you something?
Tell me.
Obviously, you can only tell the stories looking back. Right? I think I've been suffering from anxiety.
Okay.
A lot. And I think for the first time, actually, I came to a realization this week that I was so relaxed. It even scared me.
Wow.
You know, I felt like, why am I so calm? Because usually, my heart is racing.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff. But for a change, you know, heart palpitations are gone. It's amazing what money can do.
Hey! Okay, now we know the cure. You don't have ends when you don't have man, you guys. Yeah? But people who don't have money also don't have NZ. People who have money also don't have NZ. So it's the people in the middle there. Blue collar workers there.
Yeah.
Stress after stress.
Yeah, when you have a lot of debt,
Hey.
that gives anxiety.
Well, much like it is the festive season, our episode is a bit, it's fun. It's young,
Absolutely.
It's youthful, and indeed, our guest
Yeah.
embodies that.
Absolutely. The youngest we've ever had.
Yeah, the youngest we've ever had.
Yeah.
And it's not Marko, guys. It's Marko.
It's Marko.
Yeah.
It's Marko.
I'm not even going to try and butcher the surname. Mr. Marko, welcome to Pat on Brands podcast. And please, can you introduce the surname part? Because I said the name. Stavrou.
Yeah.
Stavrou. Greek, guys. Do you understand? We're eating tapas. I lie.
Tapas, Mexican.
Oh, no, tapas. The Greek Mediterranean
I don't know
tapas.
about that. Go to Mythos. I think you should go to Mythos and retry the menu.
It's not true.
So what? I know there's a Greek salad. Which one are you?
Salad, lots of pork, potatoes.
Pork?
Gyro.
Okay.
But what's like outside of Greek salad? What else is like Greek
Famous.
food famous? Yeah.
I think
Sorry, we're very busy in the studio today.
I think there's something called souvlaki, which is a type of pork.
Oh yeah.
So that's.
Oh, there was a restaurant called Soul Souvlaki.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
In
Yes.
Renstein.
And then they put it in a pizza bread.
Yeah,
Okay.
I used to love it.
Really
But I was the only customer there. They ended up closing.
Well, all the
Mythos and
rest-
Mezepoli do very well. So.
Yes.
Is
And
it?
there's a lot of Greek people. So person who owns Marble, Saint, they're all Greeks.
Oh, so you all know each other.
Connected family, and we.
Oh.
Guys, we keep talking about this wealth that's within, man.
Okay, so wait. When you say the person that owns Marble and Saint
Yeah.
is what's his name? Chef. What's his name? The popular chef.
I don't know if the chef owns
The
it.
head chef.
I don't know if he owns it, but maybe there's partners. Could be partners.
Is it? But the main guy is
Main
Greek.
guy is Greek. And he also owns Pantry.
Oh, yes, I know that group.
Okay.
David Higgs
Yeah, so
is the name I was looking
bunch
for.
of them, but yeah.
You know David
Greeks
Higgs.
have done very well, property-wise, restaurant-wise.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my fascination, obsession with entrepreneurship and business is really
Interesting.
stemmed from
You know
my
the joke about
grandparents.
Greeks. That's why they never played soccer.
Why? Because they focus in the business.
You know that? They say why they never played soccer?
Why?
Because You know, soccer, I've got a corner kick.
Yeah.
The Greeks, every corner they open a shop.
It means it was Indians, now it's Greeks. I don't know. It used to be an Indian people joke.
I mean, I don't mind that. As long as we're dominating the business arena.
So you're talking about dominance.
Welcome, Marko. And I mean, you've already started by introducing who you are and what you do, but you're known as this Gen Z phenomenon. But in elevator pitch style, who is Marko?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 3 and an 8 on an Enneagram. I've born and raised in Johannesburg. I'm currently 18 years old, running a consulting company and a SaaS and e-learning business. I started a podcast when I was 14.
Sure. And here we are, like...
Excuse
18,
us.
Yeah.
In our old age.
You say you're 14. You're 19 now?
18.
That was 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That was 2018. Podcasts were only starting.
Very early.
Yeah.
Very early. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to actually rank my podcast on Apple iTunes 7 on the charts within 7 days.
Sure.
So I actually interned at a podcast marketing company in the US, so I knew the algorithm. And so what I actually did was I got a bunch of friends at school. I said to them, I'll buy them some drinks and that at the tuck shop if they went and did a review on my podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got 30 people to do a review, and suddenly my podcast, after 3
Which
episodes...
school did you go to that had people that can rank you on Apple Podcast? They're not using Android phones like...
Android, you can use Spotify.
But you
at
said
the
Apple.
time-
You said Apple. You
Well,
got
on
it
any
ranked on
platform,
Apple's...
you can go on...
Yeah.
on
Yeah, but so the
rank.
kids had iPhones.
But it was 2014. I mean, back in the day, it looked like everyone, Apple was quite new and upcoming. So that was a big part of my learning. I had a sneaker business. That's kind of where I built all my experience and capital. Because a big question I always get asked is like, how do you start, right? How do you have the money, the resources, the experience to start? And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, especially in this country.
Yeah.
And I think if you do have the privilege of having access to internet and a smartphone, you're in a very powerful position in this country because you can do a lot with that, more than I think people think.
Sure. And this is a gentleman, guys, at the age of 18 who is at Henley Business School. How do you even wrap your head around that? I mean, at 18, I only just graduated 11 years later. And probably at the time when I was doing what I was doing in my degree, I had not even thought, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew stepping stones, for example, go through with a CA, marketing, etc. But you kind of were like, listen, this is what I'm built for. Why waste time, I'm assuming?
Yeah, that was exactly the thinking is I was so frustrated with the school system that I was like, why must I wait? There's no point of me waiting. And so when I dropped out, and I say drop out, I left school at 16 to pursue homeschooling through Cambridge and actually go full-time on my business. It was a massive risk. My parents told me I was crazy. My friends told me, they thought I was, failing school. My grandparents who live in Greece thought I was failing school. It was a lot of pressure on me. But I was so in love with what I do that, and I see a lot of these young people that are facing depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
And I have such sympathy and empathy towards them because I'm like, you're not in a place of alignment. Your parents are forcing you to do accounting at university. Your parents are forcing you to go down a route.
Here's someone who graduated today with an accounting degree.
So I'm not sure whether you love that or not, but for me, I really had the realization early, like pursue something that you love. And if you do it for a long enough time with the mindset of you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to develop, it will work out in the long run. And for me, I did not focus on the money early on.
Yeah.
And we'll get into my first business, which was called growth casting, and how I made quite a lot of money there. But I lost a lot of it. For me, what was more important was the experience that I built, because sales, marketing, operations, these are things that you don't just have them. You don't have the skills. You have to build them.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful that I've actually had some sort of experience in them, so that now the companies that I run, like, we've got CRM, we've got KPIs, it's a proper business. We're not talking, like posting on Instagram and then like doing e-commerce or dropshipping. Like, this is a proper run business, and the way that I look at myself is that I'm already a billionaire. I've got 1,000 employees, and that will manifest itself the next 50 to 60 years.
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, manifesting it now, already seeing that vision for me, so powerful. Pat, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, so you say your parents thought you're crazy, but you dropped out of a very prestigious school to go pursue another education system that's quite prestigious. when they paid for that. So what do you mean when you say they didn't support you and they thought you were crazy in your quest of,
I mean, they thought you were crazy, but I think they supported with that, or maybe share a bit more.
Well, especially when...
How did you convince them also to say, okay, cool, guys, I know you think I'm crazy, but look, this is what I want to do?
Well, in the beginning stage, it was very challenging. We used to have fights every day.
Sure.
And arguments. And so as much as they supported me, you know...
they still were parents.
Yeah, they still were parents, and they still believed that their opinion was more superior to mine and that they had more experience.
Yeah.
But as I executed on my podcast and was building, and a big thing was COVID. COVID made us go online, and I didn't know any alternatives. I was looking for alternatives, and then when I found Cambridge, it was a good educational system that my parents actually verified that actually this is worth investing in. And then I had the courage to say, if I make this decision, I'm going all out. And they could see that. I hadn't just, like a lot of young people want to make these massive steps, but they have nothing to show for it. And I think part of the reason they let me do it is because I had done 55 episodes of my podcast. I was interning at a company. I had some sort of capital. I had mentors. I was going to meet people every single week. And I think that's the best thing. Execution at least provides some sort of backing towards what you're wanting to pursue.
Got you, man. So, I mean, you and I connected actually at the Yobas. That was the first time I met you, and I was so happy that I met you. Then afterwards, we started having conversations, and I came to your events. And one thing that I've been watching you do consistently, is how you've sort of grown your personal brand and now positioned yourself as the Gen Z guy. Can you tell us more about what that's all about?
So I don't know if you actually recall, before the Yoba event, we were actually speaking on LinkedIn. So I
really?
actually reached out to you prior to the event.
Before the Yobas, my head was spinning.
Discussions.
So I knew that...
Was it closer to the Yobas?
Yeah.
My head was spinning.
Yeah, it was.
So whenever I go to an event, I always email and LinkedIn every single person at the event that is speaking or the hosts. Because I want them, and some people even just read the emails and then they don't respond. But when I come shake their hands, I want them to have seen my LinkedIn profile and I want them to see my email and know at least something about me. Or I'll go up to someone else, which in your case I did, which was through Tembisa Kunene. I went to him who was an award, he was being nominated, and I said, hey, introduce me to these people because there's already rapport there. Even your cell phone number, I don't know if you remember the situation. I was saying, hey, Pat, let's chat on LinkedIn. You said, Marko, no, stop, take my number. And there's a very big difference between me saying, hey, Pat, can I have your number? And you saying, hey, give me your number, put your number in. And I think that's what I've also started to learn with going to these events.
But this guy is a network of knowledge.
And relationships.
And I want to touch on that. I think, you started selling sneakers at 13. I sold Skopas at 13, probably. Not even probably. I think it was 15 when we started selling like chips and stuff at school, illegally so. But needless to say, I think with the journey that I'm hearing is intention. Like you say, for any event that you go, there's pre-work that's done. So it's not just like you see an event and you just want to pop up, rock up, yo, what's up, what's happening. So there's intent with you going. Is this learned? And I think it goes back to our first, if not second episode on our podcast where we discussed is that as an entrepreneur, is it learned or are you born a leader? Are you born an entrepreneur? And for me, it would seem like this is something either inherent, and if not, is it something somebody can go pick up a book and read about? Mentors either. Where do you get this intentional entrepreneurial, acts that you perform?
I think just to be vulnerable for a second, I think a lot of people maybe listening to this or watching this may be like, oh, this guy just a mlungu, he's got lots of money, his parents have probably got big businesses.
Privilege, of course, child.
Like, what is this kid doing?
Yeah.
But the fact, and as much as I grew up in a privileged environment, my grandfather, my dad's father came, both my mom and my dad's parents came here with nothing. They started from scratch. And on my business journey, I can 100% say that I started from scratch, meaning the first amount of capital, 500 Rand that I took to buy my first pair of sneakers was from me. I did not go and take 100,000 Rand loan or $28,000 from my parents to go and start my business, which is which is totally fine. I'm not degrading that, but I want people to, when they look at me, not to see, oh, I can't do this, he's got money. And as much as I do have that in the back of my mind and my parents can sort me out, everything I've done has been with my own capital. And that's also one of the reasons why my businesses are not as big as they could be.
Got you. But I mean, you're still 18, bro.
I'm still 18, but I could easily ask my dad tomorrow and say, hey, give me 200 grand and go invest in marketing and employees. And I could have probably doubled the revenue that we're doing now. So there's levels to it. And
are you all for organic growth, or you believe in, getting that cash injection to boost your business?
I think if you can get it, especially if it's your first business.
Yeah.
I think it's very helpful because you don't have to worry about small expenses when it comes to marketing and sales, and it's now you can't pay for like domains, and you can't pay for basic email newsletter payments.
Hosting sites.
Yeah, like hosting
then your
sites.
website is sketchy.
And
a week later,
these expenses add up. Like my expenses just for Houses Global with those things are like 3-4 grand a month.
Definitely.
Like that's not
definitely.
If you don't have that kind of money sitting somewhere,
of course. And sales is a sales cycle takes long.
Absolutely.
So
look at this man understanding sales cycles.
Listen to that.
Yeah.
Hey? The words used. And I mean, I think the conversation we're actually having on our podcast, I think for our December feature, is we were discussing that you can't, as an entrepreneur, kind of be quite linear. So I know you've spoken about different types of businesses, and maybe if we can touch on the different businesses that you have.
Yes.
And I know you've spoken about organic growth and so forth. I mean, I share a different sentiment when it comes to having cash injection, I think, for your first business. I think to start off, but I find that you still need to learn, because if the business grows too quick, I find that then you can't catch up to it. So you're almost trying to run after it because you're trying to, fix the foundation. Whereas when it organically grows, there's still opportunity for you to patch, fix up until then. Okay, now it's at a point where it can be exponential, But please share.
But I think there's also, I'd love to find out, because I'm speaking to a lot of entrepreneurs through Houses Global every week, and the average South African right now is not growing too fast.
Yeah.
Their problem is surviving.
Correct.
So
that is
I
quite
don't
true.
think in this environment,
it's not more expansion, it's more survival.
Yeah, it's more just paying costs and breaking even.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so even funding, I spend a lot of time in Cape Town. A lot of companies, you've got 500,000, 1 million, 2 million rand. They're not making money.
Hectic.
So that's more my concern. And the biggest question then I get asked is, Marko, if you were to go back or if you were to start a business, how would you do it? The first thing I would do is I'd work for someone much longer than I did.
Sure.
Because you build up their experience on their cost.
Of course.
Got you. And actually, I share the same sentiments right now. And whenever there's a youngster that comes in and say, yo, look, I want to obviously run my own thing. I want to be my own boss and whatnot. And I'm always, even with myself, sometimes I regret not having gone to work at a proper agency for at least a year. Just so that
understand the whole supply chain.
Absolutely. Understand the seasons, that now it's peak seasons, the highs, the lows, and, and
the
also
intricacies.
Yeah, and also just learning some skills, some hardcore skills, and also developing that discipline, because
and it's all the same. One of my mentors says is the best business model is to copy something that's already out there, but just do it faster.
Yeah. Sure.
So every idea that people come up with has already been done.
Of course.
So if, for example, with the agency, if you were to just apply those systems and you were already meeting some of the clients and building relationships with them, if you were just to apply that to your own business and just tweak two of the things that they're doing wrong in your perspective, you would have been far greater instead of now having to create everything from scratch.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So that saves you a lot of time, energy, and capital. And so as I was saying, is number one, I get a lot more work experience. And what that does for me as well is to build up capital on the side. So I always say, if you don't have at least 30 to 50 grand, you should never be starting a business. Not even
monthly
close.
Or
sorry?
Did you say monthly
No,
or
total?
Oh, to start off.
Just in cash, just sitting in your account,
cash
looking
sitting
at
in
you,
your
sitting and
account.
saying, "Hey, honey, you can spend me if you want to, but I'm here."
Take it to Miami.
So I think that's
I think then I was crazy because I jumped ship without having.
Well, you did say you had debts, actually.
Yeah,
you
I
had
was actually in the red.
Yeah.
When I left my job, I was
I
in the
started with
red.
$5,000 and I totally regret it. Because the first 8 months of my business, I made zero money.
Sure.
Sure.
You said how long?
8 months.
But
Sure.
you didn't have rent to worry about.
But despite at that point in time,
Yeah.
I think you're at where you were at. I think for the fact that you had said, "Listen, this is what I'm doing."
That's even a bigger reason why you need to save.
Which
Because
one?
I didn't even have rent. Imagine have all the other costs. The business would have failed.
Of course.
I wouldn't
But obviously, everything happens for a reason, right?
Sure.
You're in that position for a particular reason that, look, you're going to start early. You don't have to incur all these debts, or you don't have to worry about rent. All you have to do maybe is just to focus on building and growing this thing, you know?
Yeah, I'm just addressing the entrepreneurs who are going to be listening to this because I get see a lot of your questions in your story.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing is, how do I start? How do I make money now? And it's all the wrong questions, actually, that are being asked.
What do you mean it's all
So what's the right question?
What's the right questions?
Well,
that entrepreneurs should ask?
The questions I get is like, how do I make, Marko, I want to make a lot of money right now. How do I do it? And the first question I ask them is, what skills do you have? How big is your network? How much capital do you have?
Okay.
And most of the time, those three questions are zero. So I'm like, how do you expect? I had a call the other day with an entrepreneur that Hustlers Global is going to possibly work with. And he's like, in 6 months' time, I want to make 500,000 Rand. I'm like, how many clients do you have currently? He's got 2. I'm like, how much are they paying you each? The one's paying me 10 grand, the one's paying me 5 grand. So you had 15,000 Rand revenue, and in 6 months' time, you want to be in 500,000 Rand? I don't think so.
Sure.
And so there's a reality check that needs to happen, whereas if you're just starting out, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're
Got you.
not.
So now, I mean, obviously when you listen to the news and they talk about the high unemployment rate amongst the youth, what comes to your mind as a young 18-year-old entrepreneur, and they say entrepreneurship is the answer, all these young people must be like yourself, start businesses, and then end.
No, I don't
Is
think
that a viable solution?
I think not every person's an entrepreneur, and not every person at 18 or 25 is going to start their own business. Some of them are going to go work in startups and companies. What I think is an answer is that we should stop relying on the government and just build our own private economy. So companies like Batu and Drip, who've got now 350 plus employees, those are, for me, the ideal situation that we want happening. We want local companies building up the African economy and hiring out young people, many of which those employees are going to start their own businesses in the right time.
Yeah.
And equipped with the necessary skills, network, capital to do so. And I think that's my goal at Hustlers Global, is to build Africa. A lot of people ask me as a white person, are you leaving this country? I say, absolutely not. Africa allows me to shine. Africa.
I can echo that.
That was going to be my next question, to say, look, I mean, you got grandparents that are in Greece, and for sure you've got a dual citizenship, or maybe what? If it's
But
not
easy
dual,
access to
No, I do. I have a
to go Benegant.
I do.
Yeah, there we go.
you know what I mean? You can easily just say, look, I can pack my bags, go live in Greece, go to, was it Cyprus?
Correct.
You know, spend some time there, whatever. Or, you know, when you look at the news, you see the crime. Like, as a young, even white person as well, what conversations are you having with your peers about South Africa and your hopes? And I hear you say, look, you believe, and this is not the first time you say you believe in the continent, you believe in the country, but at the same time, like, what are you saying to your counterparts, your white counterparts, to your peers who are saying, look, this country, my dad says this country is going to the dogs, bro. I'm leaving.
Well, the first thing is I don't watch the news.
Okay.
I don't believe in watching the news.
Okay.
So my frame of mind when it comes to Africa is actually very positive. I focus on the positive points. Of course, we can't, ignorantly neglect what's happening. But at the same time, it doesn't help us by focusing on it. It doesn't help me, my business, doesn't help my employees. So I don't focus on it. The second thing is I've really tried to become indoctrinated into the culture. So I'm actually got a Zulu teacher that comes twice a week to my house.
You lie.
I'm learning to Kuluma because...
Ukhuluma kakhulu wena. Khuluma sikuzwe phela.
I mean,
so,
it's gonna. We'll the next time we'll conduct it in Zulu.
As a Marko askuzwa. We Marko khuluma
Please,
Zulu phela.
can you allow Marko to
Khuluma Zulu phela. Ngeke sodlala umlungu la.
Shaya Uza, let me finish. Let me finish.
Yeah.
So the first thing is I'm becoming indoctrinated in the African culture so that I can. Standard Bank's one of my clients. All the top leaders, they are black. Now, I want to go to a table and I do not want them to change to English. I want them to stick with what comes naturally to them. Because if you go to Greece, they're not changing for English for you. And unfortunately, that's a good and a bad thing because they chase away a lot of people because of their arrogance. But I want to be able to understand, be in the culture, because this is Africa. This is not England.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing about the way I'm seeing it. A lot of people that I'm speaking to, I try and speak to my mentors are positive about Africa. So they're sitting in Cape Town, they've got VC funds, they've got private equity companies, and they're doing very well, making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so those people I try and surround myself. The young people that I do engage with, and of course there's always those conversations about South Africa, the country. And I'm like, if you don't like it, mate, go somewhere else.
Got you.
It's more opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And actually you're doing yourself a service because you're not gonna thrive in a place that you actually don't want to be. So I think that's my perspective around it. It's very controversial, but I think that's what makes me stand out. People can see I care. I want to be known as someone who's really believes in Africa's building the next generation of African leaders.
Got you. So, man, you talk a lot about Gen Zs. Like, what do you think are some of the misconceptions about your generation?
Sorry.
Well, let me ask you the first question. What do you there's a few Gen Z members in here.
There's a few what?
Gen Z members in here.
Okay.
Let me define first what Gen Z is.
Okay.
So the oldest was born in 1995. So they're 27.
That cuts Mpumi and I out.
So yeah, you guys are millennials.
Yep.
And then the youngest is born in 2012.
Yeah.
They're around 10. And so that's the first thing to clearly understand when they're born and how old they are. And then any person who's between 27 and 28 or 9 and 10, it's called on the crust. They're on the crust. And what's more important about who these people actually are is there's generational defining moments that every generation experiences. So for me, my parents went through the 2008 crash, went through 9/11, and so that was big moments that happened.
But 9/11 in South Africa
globally affected the whole world.
Okay, economically.
And so that affected how my family thought about money and what was influenced onto me. And so that's very important to consider when you think about different generations. And, back to your question, Generation Z are born, they grew up with the internet. So they expect technology to work. For example, when I came into this room and the mics were being sorted out and everything with the cameras, I'm confused. I expect it to just be sorted because that's our pre-frame of technology, right? And so even in companies, when I'm working with HR departments, I'm saying to them, your interview structure, your systems, they have to just work online. You cannot go onto a form on a government website and log in 100 times and it not work. That's not going to work for Gen Z. Same way is the first thing that Gen Z go when they want to buy a product is they go to the reviews. They want to see how people are reviewing this product. The second thing they go to is how long does it take to deliver? Because if I have to wait 3 weeks, I'm not ordering it. I'd rather go somewhere else where it's 24 hours. These are some of the things that companies can consider.
So is it true that then when you say Gen Z can't wait for 2 weeks?
3 weeks.
Or 3 weeks?
Impatient individuals.
And the current length now of Gen Z staying at a company is between 6 and 12 months. So after 6 and 12 months, they're out.
Looks like I'm a Gen Z.
But Mpumi's not a Gen Z.
Looks like I'm a Gen Z.
Maybe she doesn't like working with you.
No, not even.
Oh yes, she left in less than a year.
Yeah, but it just means I'm a Gen Z because you're not the only one. It's not personal.
It is.
And look where I'm at 4 years later.
So is it true that then you are the microwave generation?
Absolutely. That's a great analogy. They can't wait. We can't wait for anything. And that's impatience is detrimental in a business environment.
Got you.
Sure.
Detrimental because we're focusing on the money, we're focusing on the outcome, we're focusing on the fame. Like, oh, if I go viral on TikTok, now I'm a big shot. Yeah, let's see your account, let's see your cash flow, let's see, what is coming.
Yeah,
in
what
month.
that translates to. I mean, you going viral.
Indirectly.
Yeah.
But not straight away.
Got you.
And you can easily lose that if you don't have business acumen. So I think we've got to be careful, and this is what a lot of my teachings are around, how to get patience, how to look to the long term. Another characteristic of Gen Z is that they're big about finances. They want to be financially independent. They want their own money. They want to be separate from their parents. They want to support their parents.
Got you.
Okay.
So that's another characteristic that's really important to consider.
And I think I've come to learn that they're also quite environmentalists or
social causes.
Social causes.
Massive.
One of the clients that I think we did a bit of research on, I think it was Gen Z, and I was very surprised. I was like, oh, okay, it's that type of people.
Yeah.
Don't touch hug the tree type of people. All of that. That's what
Don't chop the trees.
So, yeah. Okay.
So it's a big thing when they go to companies. They want to see which social causes companies are supporting.
Sure.
And it actually influences their decision whether they want to work at this company or not.
I think what I'm picking up, and I think I touched on the question so that people understand what Marko does, is there's also a part where I think you've spoken about who you are. You've kind of identified this is what I am and who I am within, the social ecosystem. And now you're able to sell that, which is quite interesting. And by virtue of, I think there's, I don't know how many Gen Zs, but you've identified to say, listen, I'm almost the voice for the community to say, this is what we want. This is how we want things to be done. This is who we are. And kind of molding places where Gen Zs are going to either perform or be at to kind of fit into the world that you guys are creating for Gen Zs. I don't know what's after Gen Zs. Is there something new after Gen Zs yet? Is it gone back?
Gen A or whatever. Gen A.
It's Gen ZY.
Wow.
I'm not
I don't know what
kidding.
your
Really?
kid is.
Oh, sorry.
There's a few different ones.
Never mind, I take it back.
I know millennials is after Gen Z, and then Gen X, and then boomers.
They're baby boom booms.
But I mean, I think what I'm trying to get to is the fact that now, I mean, millennials were a thing. They were a hit up until they're not. And there's like now, they are still. And I think in different, now they talk about bonds, they talk about cars. There's a different conversation economically about them. But now Gen Zs is for the past, I think, since 2018 or so, they were the ones who were, because they were 18, right? 2018, yeah. That's when they started. So people now kind of reviewed them and tried to identify who they are. TikTok was a thing, but now people are understanding that we have now a new, new community of individuals. I keep saying, guys, when I work with Gen Zs, I mustn't forget there's the, that's pretty cool in their meeting. So then I'm just like, can't we just say, that's great? It's like, that's dope,
So even with emails, I have to teach my staff, like, the way you communicate through emails with clients is unacceptable.
There's the
actually on that part, sorry to interject there, Mpumi. On that part of like formal business sort of communication, the reason why your staff, I assume, communicate the way they do is because
it's learned.
Right? It's the environment, it allowed for
school,
that.
University.
School, yeah. Am I, as an employer of a Gen Z, unreasonable not to allow such talk? Like you send an email, there's no subject, there's no introduction, nothing. Just say, hi, I'm looking for a job. Or hi, send me so and so. Let me say, please send me. That etiquette.
But there's no time for that,
That lack of business professional etiquette. Are we like not catching on or catching up with moving with the times, or still stuck in the past, or actually
there's still an expectation to have dear Pat and warmest regards or kind regard. And funny enough, I had a quick I think it was last year, a course on how email communication has changed, where what's not capital letters anymore, kind of slanged it here, just because society has kind of become okay with it. I mean, not entirely.
Yeah.
But I think there's a thing you always say. I forgot the statement you always say. But Gen Zs kind of have to follow suit, I'd like to believe.
In that.
Yeah. I think formal business basically is what we're trying to say is that
is it outdated? Should I as an employer, try to catch on with the Gen Zs, or Gen Zs must conform with my business? I mean, with how we do business.
I think it's situation dependent. If you're emailing a report to a client and you don't have full stops and you don't have capital letters and you don't have structure, then no, like they have to come to the party.
Gotcha.
But if you're on Slack or on WhatsApp and you're sending out messages, do I think it needs to be so formal? No, I think we can reduce the expectations. But I think it's very situation
But
dependent.
also at the same time, how do you learn to? Because then it starts with how I communicate with you. Hi, Marko. Are you well? Good. Thank you. Please,
So we have standard operating procedures and scripts that we give employees.
sure.
Wow.
If you want to email a client specific to this, you send it like that. If you want to
So
have a phone
organized
call,
when
Yeah,
entrepreneur.
like you.
so I've set up systems to do that.
Sure.
And then on Slack and WhatsApp, there's also certain etiquettes. Like don't call me at 9 p.m.
Got you.
Don't if I'm being serious about a situation, don't laugh. Like don't take it as a joke when I'm on the phone with you and I'm addressing something serious and you're like sorry or like I forgot or I'll do it or like hades. Like don't say that shit. Like this is serious. Like this is money.
I wish they could hear you. So, but where does that come from, Marko?
Where does what come? The culture.
That like being nonchalant about stuff.
There are children and it's part of society. It's where the schools are at. It's where culture is in the world.
Does it mean that also does it come from home? Like,
I don't think it comes from home. I
Would
think
you
it comes
say?
from Hollywood. I think it comes from social media. I think it comes from.
is it?
Yeah, if you look at the bigger, go listen to a
I'm
song.
really fascinated by what you just said right now in terms of how your peers, I'd put it, sort of relate to their bosses, relate to and then the business environment, because I feel like sometimes when I say some of these things to my team members, especially the junior ones, they think I'm
This old man.
Yeah, this old man
coming with hardcore stuff,
exactly,
unnecessary stuff.
And
I think it also takes time to learn. It's something
I'm just a
you actually
grumpy
just
old
learn.
man.
I don't think they intentionally want to be detrimentally not effective to the business.
Yeah.
I think they're just part of the learning. And that's also what separates me.
Gotcha.
Is that I'm able to pitch to a group of executives or exco leaders in a professional manner at 18. And that's why
Where did you learn that?
listening to hundreds of podcasts, sending out 100 emails and realizing why people aren't responding to me, reaching out to clients, dealing on sales calls. So it's just an obsession. Like I don't think there's many young people that are learning and growing as fast as me. I'm going through meetings upon meetings with mentors and advisory board members every single week saying, how can I improve? What one belief that I have at this moment do you not agree with? I want them to be evaluating my life and my thinking and saying, yes, no, yes, no.
Got you. I mean, you interviewed 5 billionaires.
Yes.
What is that one common thread that all these billionaires have?
One is belief.
I was going to say, besides the billions that they have.
Yeah,
Of course.
belief that they, from the beginning, they always believed in whatever they were doing, they believed in themselves at such a rate. And I see that, not to sound arrogant, but I see that in myself a lot because
Yes, when?
when I was young and 16, 18, and I was on phone calls, $5,000 products selling PR services, like you have to have almost like a,
The audacity.
yeah, the audacity, the ignorance, the, like blissfulness of you can actually do this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that, a major characteristic that I picked up. A lot of them, the ones that I interviewed, did come from like huge backgrounds, so
Yeah.
family businesses,
Got you.
which does help a lot.
Can you name drop?
Some of them.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were US. There's a guy called Bobby Castro. He sold a medical company for $1 billion. The Halamandaras family, famous brands. So they own all the Steelers,
Yes.
all those companies. Who else have I interviewed? It's a billionaire. A guy called Sam Bucketeer, also again US based. Who else? Oh, there's a few different ones. Some locally as well that I just have interviewed on Hustle Global's articles as well.
Sure.
So I think beliefs, one, accountability, like it's them versus the world.
Sure.
And they're not making excuses for anything, no matter how they grew up. The Sam Bucketeer came from Iran with his mom from the war. He left and built everything from scratch. So I think, it's this ignorance belief that you can do it, that you can build it. And what I've also learned from them, which I've also started to try and do more, is like, what's to say the person I'm sitting across is not there for me?
Say that again.
Say that again.
For example, let's say I have a meeting with the CEO of Standard Bank.
Gotcha.
What's to say that he's not there to also learn from me? You've got uniqueness. You've got a brand.
Gotcha.
Like, believe that he can also learn from you, that there's an
You can also add value to his life.
Correct. Because that's when a real relationship comes through.
Aha.
And so
I wish as many Gen Zs and millennials can listen to this podcast, because it's exactly what I always preach to young people. You know, that you need to add value. You cannot come with a begging bowl.
Correct. And you always post in your stories, like, people send emails to you or messages and say, like, Pat, can you help me? Pat, can I have a job?
Yeah.
Pat, can you send me money?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, nothing's going to come from that. And so the best thing you can do right now, if you're listening,
Yeah.
is build up skills through YouTube and reach out to startups and say, hey, can I intern for free?
Sure.
And the best...
And a sensible entrepreneur won't allow you to work for free.
Exactly. The worst thing he does is pay for your petrol.
Got you.
True though. If it's internet or something, usually I'd like to believe I'd say because when we have interns, that's what we attempt to do. But now, where is Marko going in 2023?
So to give people more context of where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
I've got a consulting company called Stavrou Consulting that helps large corporations.
Why Stavrou?
Why Stavrou?
Yeah. I know it's your surname, but
I want to create a holding company for my kids.
Okay.
Called Stavrou Holdings.
So you're already thinking legacy.
So I'm already thinking legacy, and I'm also structuring so that I can build multiple businesses for the next 5 generations.
Sure.
Because I say to my dad, my grandparents, in some ways I wish that I was born into a family business, because I think that I could have so much more leverage.
So your dad can't transfer some of his skills to you.
Well, he's a doctor.
I know he's a doctor, yeah.
So he's not directly in business, but he has taught me a lot.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I wish I was born in that, because life's about leverage.
Then go study medicine, boy. Don't be lazy.
No. I hate blood. I don't like... No, thank you. So in some ways, I wish I was born. But in other ways, as Gary Vee says, how can you... If you're being given food the whole time, how can you be hungry?
Yeah.
So you can't be hungry if you've been given stuff the whole time. And that's one of my things my parents have done really well, is just like, you go and do it, Marko. You go and work it out.
Gotcha.
And we'll support you along the way if your businesses liquidate and you fall under.
You have a little bit of cushioning.
A little bit of cushioning to fail. And sometimes I think I'm too cushioned. I'd like to just buy a office like Elon Musk and go and sleep there and work it out. So I think that's the balance that I'm trying to figure out.
I think the irony is that some other entrepreneurs are like, I just wish I could have that cushioning.
Exactly, 100%. And most South Africans listening to this will be saying that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said back to the thing about starting with 30 to 50,000 Rand, like, please be careful to start a business.
Yeah.
Because it's not as easy as it looks online. And you see all these guys on TikTok, Andrew Tates of the world, the Iman Ghazis, all these guys who are making millions and millions. And you have no idea or context of where that's from.
Gotcha.
It could easily be their parents. It could easily be generational wealth. And you think they've built it. And so if I just restart, I get experience, build up skills, build up capital, and then after 2-3 years, when you've actually figured out a real business model that serves a real need. Another thing is a lot of young people come to me and they're like, hey, Marko, I've got this business. I'm like, okay, cool. how many people, customers, have you
So
gone
you're
to-
already a thought leader there. People are coming to you.
Yeah, 100%. But that's also because of our target market with us
Got you.
Global. I'm having conversation just organically.
Yeah.
And so then I'm asking them, how many people have you spoken to before you launched the business and registered the company that actually want your service? And some of them will say 0. So I'm like, what proof of concept, what product market fit have you really built if no one actually wants what you're offering?
But sometimes, I mean, people don't know what they want until you present them with something.
With a lot of businesses.
And a lot of businesses that have now, grew to become multi-billion-dollar businesses were actually contrarian. Were those businesses that no one thought they would work. For example, the Airbnb guys, people would have thought, why would people want to let strangers into their houses?
And how much money did they raise?
Why would you want to? But because the idea was so novel and crazy, and that's what I'm getting to.
But I think they had some sort of, when they launched their first housing, there was already a catch. People wanted that. When they launched it, there was some sort of catch, and I think that's important. Even if it's 1 or 2 people that at least you've spoken to before. I always say, speak to customers.
I mean, is it Henry Ford who said if you ask people what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse, not a car.
Yeah.
But he invented the car.
It's true. But I'd say for the average early stage founder, you have to find a real need, because people start companies and businesses there's no one wants that. And they don't have the network or the capital or the resources to sit for a year and figure it out and adapt and change the whole time. For example, Elon Musk, he started his company with $28,000 from his dad. Now, in the book, he writes, I tried to figure it out, and I had no money, and I was sleeping on the couch. But that $28,000 goes a long way to give you 6 months, 12 months time period to go and change and adapt the product to where people want it.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Bezos had $100,000 US dollars from.
And who has that in South Africa? Not many people that are unemployed who are starting.
Have you been to the township? Have you spent some time in a township?
In a real context, like day to day, no. But I have been to Ivory Park, I've been to Alexander to do some NGO work.
Okay.
So I have got some sort of connectiveness to that, but most of my work is dealing with young people who are on the breadline and they're just making it. And I'm trying to support them just with my time.
Got you. So obviously there's a young boy that went to Saints that lives in the north of Johannesburg and you go to these townships. What feeling do you get?
Anger.
Is it?
Anger. So when my grandparents were chased out of Cyprus because Turkey invaded and they spent 3 weeks on a boat to get to South Africa, and now I think about some of the factors that contributed towards why so many black people are struggling right now. I get very frustrated because I think, and it's the same thing, I studied Hitler and I studied what happened with the Nazis. And it's very sad. And the best thing I can do is say, how can I help? That's the question I think as a white person I can ask. I will never fully understand it. And I can't fake it. And say I do, but the best thing I can do is believe in this country and say, how can I help, and actually put money behind it, because it's one thing jumping on Zoom calls, but what about taking 200,000 rand and putting it into a black female founder and saying go and fail? That takes
basically.
There's not many men that are going to do that.
Yeah, that is very true.
So I think that's really really important to me, that I'm wanting to.
So we'll discuss that 250,000.
She's a female founder.
I'm a female founder.
Once I sell Hustlers Global and have a VC fund, I'm
guys,
sure this relationship
it's gonna go beyond.
We'll be ready.
But back to Mpumi's question, 2023 top line. How does that look like for you?
10xing my brand. I just hired a full digital company to do all my content, because I was spending so much time trying to do content and not enough on sales and marketing and actually lead generation. So number one is just 10xing my personal brand and building my leverage as Marko Stavrou, the Gen Z guy in Africa and internationally. And the second thing is just going full time even further into, it's my first year out of high school. So first full time into Stavrou Consulting and Hustlers Global and just generating revenue through that and building those startups.
Lovely. And your travels? Anything interesting?
London. I'm going to London.
You went to Seychelles this year?
I did.
Oh, so
London. I went
blue
to London
waters.
as well. I went to London as well for business.
And you dipped your toes on the white sands.
We're in Seychelles.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did.
You should see the face.
Israeli woman. But yeah, so I'm going to London next year with Standard Bank, some work there. I'm going to also visit Henley. They've got a school there.
Oh, amazing.
So-
yes. I mean, the headquarters, I think, in
Yes.
the UK, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going there for business, and I'd like to go to the US, but I don't think I'm ready. When I go there, I wanna like do it properly.
Please don't stay.
No.
Don't stay there.
No ways.
Okay.
No ways. Africa, at least next 10 years, I'm
Yeah.
building the nation.
Got you.
Sure.
Got you. Now, we want to test your knowledge of brands. I mean, this wouldn't be the Pattern Brands podcast if you don't do the Pattern Brands quiz.
What happens if I
Yeah.
say no?
Say again?
What happens if I say no?
We show you the door.
Yeah. Well, we slap you first.
Yeah.
It's either a pat or a slap, like we do it.
So if you get it correct, if you get the answer right,
So I'm getting shied by both
Get a
of
pat.
you. Just
Both. What do you mean?
with those arms.
It's like chisampama. Yeah.
have you seen Mpumu's one?
I'm scared of you,
Listen,
Pat.
yeah, we got top 5 questions which we're going to be asking you. Yeah. Hit it away, Pat.
All right, cool. We're gonna kick off here with the first question. Or should I say question? What's your dream car? Do you have any? Are you into cars?
Merc G. I've forgotten the name.
Oh, sorry. Okay, but it's a Merc.
It's a Merc.
Okay.
Yeah. But I also want to get a driver. I hate driving. Hate driving. So when I see Batu, Theo,
Yeah.
I get jealous. I have to switch off my social media. I'm like, it's no good for me. Looking at him as the driver, getting out with all those Batus. For those who don't know, I'm obsessed with Batu. I've got about 5 pairs.
Okay.
Wow, amazing. Amazing. Okay, cool. So this question is about cars
Okay.
and people. So what is the name of the South African artist that partnered up with Porsche or Porsche last year to deliver a unique
Oh, it
911?
wasn't last year. It was the year before last, I think.
What, 2020?
20. Okay, but anyway.
Do I get
Time
clues?
flies. So this artist is international. Not as in musician, like visual artist.
Oh, visual art.
He's visual
I actually
artist.
saw the... Okay.
So yeah, he partnered up with Porsche to deliver a very unique 911 Carrera Coupe.
And he's African.
He's black. He's South African. The only clue I'm gonna give you, he's from Modimolle.
Is he black coffee?
Njani.
John, it's just
Njani.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was
Oh, you
last
haven't
year.
finished the
Sorry.
question.
Yeah.
I was referring to the Mini Cooper one.
yeah.
Jeez.
So
saying the question.
is it Bonnie Chalinchale? Is it Nelson Makamo? Or is it Gerard Sikoto?
Jeez, I was way off.
Pascal.
I don't know. I don't even follow art. So
Is
I'll go with the first guy.
Is it A? Is it
A.
B? Is it C?
Hey.
It's definitely a slap.
It's a slap.
It's definitely a slap.
I mean, this guy has delivered portraits to Oprah.
Follow artists. Ask me business guys.
I mean,
Business
artists
people collect
yeah.
art. I mean,
Yeah.
come on now.
Guys, you should be asking me business guys. Come on.
No. As a businessman, you'll be collecting art as an investment.
Oh, I'm a startup. I'm not worrying about art.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, it's Nelson Makamo.
Okay.
Whilst we are on
He's
cars,
done pieces, I mean, for Swiss Beats. Black Coffee owns a couple of pieces. Oprah Winfrey. So he's a big...
Proper.
He's proper.
Whilst we're on cars, in what year did Carl Benz invent the world's first car? Was it 1866, 1876, or 1886?
1876.
1876? Well, you'll be getting a slap. It's 1886.
1886.
Guys, this is why I left school early. Why are you guys asking me?
Well, at Cambridge, I thought at Cambridge, these are, there's a subject for quizzically. Quizzically fit.
Come on.
Okay, here's a business-related question, and I hope you get this one. Who's the founder of Bolt?
Yo. Actually, don't know that.
Is it Mark Zuckerberg? Is it Marcus Valk? Is it Marcus Jooste?
Second guy.
It's a Pat.
Oh, yes. 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. Yeah. The next question, still again in the tech space. Who is the MD and co-founder of the South African tech company Ikoka? I hope they haven't changed. Is it Matthew Patman or Michael Patman or Matt Patman?
Actually, I have one of these machines, but never cared to look at the founder.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Ish.
You said 2 Matthews, right?
So there was Matthew, there was Michael, and there was Matt. Matthew, Michael, Matt. Matt,
on,
Michael,
Marco.
Matthew.
None of these guys are black, man. What's going on? Is this Africa or England? I'll go Michael.
Michael? That's a slap. It's Matt Patman.
Matt Patman.
Last question, Padzo.
All right, let's give it to you. Which company's logo has an arrow that points from A to Z that highlights that the retailer's wide range of products?
No.
Is it eBay? Is it Amazon? Or is it Google?
Jeez. I don't even know. Let me think for a sec. eBay? Wrong.
I think you just gave us that one because Amazon is A to Z.
Oh my
But you know what?
Oh my goodness.
You know what? This is
Okay, wait, let me ask you a question quick.
Okay.
Before we
Yes.
end. Which company
you.
and person
Yeah?
is going to win the Yoba Educational Category Award? These are the options.
Hustlers.
Wait. These are the options. Marko,
Yeah.
Marko, or Marko.
If they're nominated,
Yeah, it's Marco.
if they're nominated, if they get the votes,
I
maybe
think
they will win.
I love how he already knows the category he's going to
enter for.
dominate. As
I
he
missed
said.
last year's. I didn't. This
Yeah.
year's I didn't enter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's fine. I'm giving competition a.
Ne?
You know,
But it's great that you're already aspiring to win a Yoba. It's
means you
great.
build a good brand because I'm
Yeah.
wanting to.
Absolutely.
He's
be a
willing.
part
Guys,
of it.
for anyone who's listening, we've dealt with 2 egos of 2 men here.
Really?
Being Marco and Pat. And
don't know.
earlier when we started, it was him saying it's an honor. We should be thankful. Then the other, it was him being, part of this. But it's been an amazing, inspiring
Absolutely.
December young, youthful episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
You should come back in the near future.
I think maybe even with having like more discussions in terms
More
of
young people.
Young people, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like a round table
Bravo, you want to
of
come in?
a round table of I think how we're shaping Africa or South Africa.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
for sure. We should be doing
Yeah, the
that.
shapeshifters.
And Nigeria is just growing in mean right now,
Yeah.
as you just speak,
Yeah.
as
Thank you
you
for
just
having me,
spoke.
guys.
Yeah.
You know, how can people get a hold of you, Marco?
Well, my email is marko@hustlersglobal.com.
Marco with a K,
Guarantee you-
please. Marco with a K.
Marko.
There we go. Because I was seeing it every time. Marco. Okay.
So if you guys need any questions or anything, or if you want to verify my work, reach out to me. Always happy to answer. On Instagram, on all social media platforms, it's Marko. And Stavrou, just copy and paste in the show notes into social media.
Sure.
And always happy to connect. Thanks for having me. I hope that you guys learned something different. And my final message would just be start.
Sure.
Because you're not going to be anywhere 6 months, 12 months on the line unless you start doing something different.
Gotcha.
That's
My
my final
goodness.
message.
Wow, lovely, Marco. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, you future billionaire.
And for our guests or listeners rather out there, please make sure to listen to us on all four, or anyone that makes sense for you: Spotify, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, and it's purple. I even forgot now.
Sure. Which one?
We were talking about
Anchor.
There we go.
Anchor FM.
FM. So whichever one works for you, please make sure to tune in. Make sure to share. Tell a friend that your hosts, Pat and Mpumi, are online and sharing more about marketing, sharing more about entrepreneurship,
Yes.
and sharing more about life and business.
Yeah, man. From me, Pat Mahlangu
And from myself and Mpumi Satsha, we're out. Have a beautiful one wherever you're listening to us. Goodbye.
Dango.
This podcast is brought to you by Lerato Agency and Lenala Beauty.